The first thing on the agenda is I'm 84 today, and that's a miracle all by itself. 84. I wish I could reverse that, make it 48. All of this started during the Great Depression. All of our generations now, all the young generations now, have a hard time understanding how that was. That was really bad. Okay? And even folks at work, like my mom and dad, were just dirt poor. There was a black man 2 blocks away at age 4. They were living in a little bit of tenement, a 2-room place, that danced on the corner on Saturday for nickels and dimes. Lots of people would come, and he had an old Victrola he cranked up, and I started imitating him. I'm barefoot, age 4. I'm barefoot because I don't have any shoes, not because I wanted to be barefoot. Okay? And he noticed me, and he brought me out in the middle of all these people and on a corner in Memphis, Tennessee, and I could find that corner today if I had to, and we became a duet. That led to going into about 4 weeks later into a talent show in Memphis in a famous theater that's still there now. People went to talent shows in those days because there was no fee for it and there was no entertainment, no television. Very few folks had a radio. Place was packed. I'm 4 years old. Okay? They had no seating at the bottom on age. They had it on the top. You couldn't be over 17 or something. I won the darn thing with borrowed tap shoes, a paper hat as a top hat, and a stick from a tree like vaudeville. Da-da-da-da-da, boom. At age 4. Later, I think I won it on a sympathy vote for being the youngest one. In the audience of that talent show, it's 1938, okay, was a talent scout, a bona fide straight shooter talent scout from Universal Studios in Los Angeles. He was there visiting his mother in hospital. And 3 weeks later, we were in Los Angeles by train. And within a month, I'm in my first movie, Mother Carries Chickens, having a great time. We're not poor anymore. We're not rich. We're not counting pennies on the dining room table anymore. Okay? That led to the second film, Son of Frankenstein. Children then and now say, my gosh, why weren't you afraid of that guy? He was a riot. Boris Karloff could have been a stand-up comic. He was really a riot. We had several scenes, one in particular interrupted, and the director was a wonderful man. He sort of got mad at us because he found out I was ticklish. And he tickled me in the scenes. Everybody started laughing. Take a break, come back and do it again. The one at the very end of the film where he had his foot on me, I'm captive now. I was his buddy in the castle, but now I'm his prisoner, right? He started tickling me with the side of his foot because it took so long to make that scene. That took us 45 minutes to make that 35-second scene. Okay? And I had a hard time looking afraid. At the very end of it, it looks like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid. I had a real hard time with that because we were laughing so much. And then 5 or 6 other films. I think I co-starred in 4 or 5 of them on the marquee, 4 or 5 of them. The last one was the first animated, and that was Bambi with Mr. Walt Disney. Wonderful man. Had a lot of time with him. Luncheons and other things. Interesting man. He kept his employees and his artists a long time during a period when people were just one job after another. He was a very responsible, good leader man. And Bambi was, of course, the classic of all those classics, that and Son of Frankenstein. He was going to release that film in December of 41. Guess what? Pearl Harbor on the 7th. So he very prudently put it off until the spring of 42. And a couple years after that, my family ruptured. We had some deaths and other things. I ended up in a boarding house at age 14, which was not uncommon then. We had a lot of men back from World War II in boarding houses, and very properly conducted. And at age 14, I was in a boarding house supporting myself, and I can say from then to now, at age 84 today. Interesting experience. The lady that ran it was a champion lady. You'd have to be a real bad person not to learn character from her. She became my surrogate mother, a wonderful lady. And I got a great job. I finished high school early. The Korean War is blasting away, and I got a draft notice. Now, this makes me a hypocrite. The people in the film business know I say this all the time. I never went to the movies, okay? And I hardly knew anything about the armed forces. A wonderful general later introducing me for charity things, and when I'm in the Marine Corps would say, now here's Major Dunagan, and he studied the Marine Corps and all the other services and picked us on merit. And General, that's not so. And everybody laughed, okay? I had no clue about the service. I'm in the induction hall with a towel around me with a bunch of other guys, and the draft was on, and the doctors up here are going to say, you're okay, you're not okay, right? And a Marine recruiter who's not supposed to be in there snuck in alongside the wall, came up from behind me and said, you Dunagan? I said, I had the prudence to say, yes, sir. Marine Corps got a football team. I said, it does? And you get paid? It does. Bang. 2 hours later, I'm in the Marine Corps. I'm sorry, General, that's the end of my intellectual examination of the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps was wonderful to me. And the first heart attack disturbance that I probably caused, and I wasn't the author of it, was I graduated from boot camp in March of 1953. Had no parents there, of course. Other fellows did. It was a very big ceremony, wonderful thing to finish Marine Corps boot camp in those days, right after World War II. And they sent me in a Jeep to the other end of the boot camp in San Diego to DI school. Now, DI school, for those of you that have never looked at this, that's Valhalla in the Marine Corps. Sergeants from World War II are students in DI school, and brand new sergeants from Korea in DI school. I'm a PFC, and I just had my chevron sewn on, and I'm lousy with the thread. I had it on crooked anyway, okay? And they sent me to DI school. I thought the DI school commander and the first sergeant were going to have a heart attack. Yeah? PFCs do not come to drill instructor school. I have these orders, right? They finally recovered from that, and I finished on the top of, near the top of the class, because I just finished boot camp. I ought to know something about boot camp, right? And so I became the youngest drill instructor then in Marine Corps history. Then and now I hear repeatedly, wonderful start. Did a couple of platoons as a junior drill instructor, up to Pendleton and back. A lot of old Marines know about this story. It takes too long to tell them. And now I'm 19 and a half years old, and I'm back at San Diego, famous Marine Corps boot camp, senior drill instructor at 19 and a half. We think that's also an all-time record. That set the stage for all kinds of wonderful things. Marine Corps was much better to me than probably I deserved. Got promoted probably faster than I should have. I got away with it, frankly. And got commissioned as a warrant officer first, and then as a regular line officer. Had a lot of command time, companies and battalions and platoons, one battalion. And I got some wounds after the war, after the Vietnam War. The standards on promoting and staying in got tougher again. And now I'm a commander in boot camp, and I am super fit. Okay? I'm having trouble with my physical for promotion because of new standards, back to real standards. So I decided to retire. The same month, uniquely, as a famous Marine Corps general, dear friend of mine, also retired. But in the business, did very, very well. A couple of things I won't bore you with. But at this stage of my life, those things are almost irrelevant, sir, in the rest of the world, because I'd like to share some value things that would help a lot of us, young and old. I think somewhere at the age 30, 32, after I was injured one time real bad and recovered, I started modifying Webster's dictionary in attitudes. And I have a great respect for dictionaries. Let me pretend I have my own dictionary in front of me in my early 30s. I drew a line through one of the S words. There's 3 S words I think that are causing us some trouble today. I'd love to help people with. One of them is selfish. I drew a line through the word selfish. Another one that can cause us some problems for those of us my age is senior citizen. Now, I didn't draw that line in those days, but I have recently. I'm 84. I think at age 62, 65, too many of us say, oh my gosh, I'm a senior citizen now, I need to back off. I need to back off. I need to park. Folks, no park. No park. At age 20, no park. Age 85, no park. That's part of another word, and my last one, sir, that I scratched off real early in life, and status quo. Status quo. A great old gangster fellow in one of the movies that Universal made in 1940, New Jersey gangster with his accent. I remember his definition of status quo was, all right, guys, we got it now. No changes, don't change nothing. Status quo. Scratch out status quo. Change it to status go. Big G-O. And don't park, live your life, scratch out selfishness, scratch out some of them other words that inflict our attitudes, and get lucky like me. And I have been very lucky.
All right. You are a delight. If you want to talk a little bit about what led you to San Angelo and what your life has been like since coming here.
San Angelo. 15 years ago we came to San Angelo, and I've been thinking about it for some time. The Enron problems and some other things in history motivated my thinking about where to go. Both of us, Dana and I, were born in Texas, and so we were very familiar with most of Texas. And I had been here years ago when I was loaned out in the counterintelligence in the Marine Corps during the Cold War. I was in here one time particular on a very sensitive investigation back in the late 50s. That's a long time ago. But I remember it well. It was much smaller then. I remember the river. I was very impressed with the river walk. And when Dana and I needed to make a decision on for economy and culture and people and environment, we looked at several different places, and we picked San Angelo. Bought a little house that's still there, and doing well a few miles from here. And we've been here now 15 years, I think, 15 and a half years. Very unique place in the middle of West Texas, San Angelo is. Okay? I'll give you an example. Last Saturday, with the Lions Club, at one of the Walmart entrance, okay, we had baskets out in our restaurant from Lions to collect school supplies for children, needed really bad here, okay, a lot of children. And I was one of the main greeters at the curb. You couldn't hardly get into Walmart by not going around me, okay, by trying to go around me. And it was a wonderful witness of life and the people in San Angelo. I saw folks that my senses were, from the vehicles they drove up in and the other things, that contributing $10 or $20 or buying a sack of school supplies was really a hard thing for them. I saw several people that I know, a couple I did know, that would have a hard time making a contribution or anything, went out of their way to do it. One family, sir, Latino, came up with 4 of the cutest children, like do. Eh? They paused. I could tell they were hard-working folks. They paused in front of me. The dad broke into his work trousers, fingered some money, gave each little child $1 for the school children's books, and handed it to me. Now, I'm an somewhat tough old dude, and I've seen a lot of stuff in life. My eyes watered up on that one. I saw a lot of that on Saturday by San Angelo. I love this one. I love this one. How do I met Dana? I'm an executive in the largest, I'm out of the Marine Corps now several years. I'm an executive in the largest memorial park company in the world. Memorial Park, it's a fancy name for big, fancy graveyard. Big one, Rose Hills in California, okay? Really big, well done, properly conducted, right? And one of my assistants needs to hire somebody to help people make selections and do smart things for the preparation for the end of life, right? And we hired Dana. Huh? And 4 or 5 months after that, I finally had the courage to ask her to lunch. Now, I don't have a problem with the courage button most of the time, but for some reason, I had a hard time. Can I ask her to lunch? And finally, I did. And life moved on from that, and we've been married this September, 26 years, despite myself, 26 years. And when some people, particularly at fundraisers, I love this when I get asked that question, how did you meet your wife? I met her in a graveyard. They say, what? Yeah, I met her in a graveyard, and it worked.
That's
lucky and blessed. And I owe a lot of people, most are gone now, with intense, in the eyes, loving thanks. A couple of people kept me from making career mistakes on good advice, and I listened, and thank goodness I took it. I am one old general. I need to refer back to this man. One old general that was a Rhodes Scholar candidate, but a great combat leader in the Marine Corps. He really understood this. He looked at me one day when I was 41 or 42 years old, and he said, you are homogenized, aren't you? And I said, sir? And he's calling me some other things, you know, homogenized. And he understood that I have gone through life picking out the best characteristics I could possibly see in people that were respected by their peers. Not respected by a boss. I'm a little suspect of that, okay? But people that are respected by their peers, okay? What makes them so successful? Why are they able to get more done than other people? And I try to look what that was. And you can't copy all of it, but as I told a good friend here recently, I was a big thief. I stole the best characteristics from those that I could see that were respected by peers. I would like to really share that with children, okay? Pick your models up in standards. Don't pick them down. Pick them up. You may not be able to do everything that they do up, but try. And so the old general is right. I'm homogenized from a lot of people. Real astute people say, why in the world didn't you mention Bambi or Frankenstein? That would have worked in the Marine Corps all those years. Most of the time, I didn't think about it. I was very busy. I didn't dwell on it. And I had a distaste for men who bragged about things, so I kept it quiet all those years, okay? Once in a while, some image would come up of Bambi or some of the other movies, and I thought, oh my gosh, I remember that. I had a great time then, right? But I didn't dwell on it. Now, this is really funny. Bambi, Disney was going to release Bambi in early 1976, okay? And I'm in San Diego. And the newspaper said in an article that he's thinking about putting credits on it for the first time. Credits. There's no animated credits on most of those films, right? And I thought, oh my gosh. I'm one of the commanders working for General Houghton, the famous Marine Corps boot camp, right? Boot camp, Marine Corps boot camp. And I thought, oh my gosh, if they put credits on this thing and they show it in the base theater or any of the theaters in San Diego, you know, I could just see every drill instructor that's working for me and some of these wonderful young captains calling home, writing home, dear Mom and Dad, guess what? My commanding officer's Major Bambi. And I was proud of that, but they had not seen Bambi. They only had some little fractional impressions of it, and most of the impressions until they saw it was from hearsay. Well, that was about some little deer that was silly, that floated around on the ice and did dumb things, fell on a log, you know. I thought, wait a minute, I don't need my drill instructors to think I'm a little silly guy on the ice or falling on logs, so I kept my mouth shut, right? Here we go. I did not realize that General Houghton, famous man, was going to retire because he kept it quiet. And I had quite not made my decision to do that yet either. I mean, I'm fighting with these physical doctor guys. And it's 5:30 in the morning on a Friday. And that's when we start real early there in boot camp, right? I'm in full uniform, and I get the word that General wants to see me. I beat feet to his office. And I've been in there many times, worked for him 3 times in my life. We know each other really well, right? He doesn't get me at ease. He always says, sit down, sit down. I'm sitting at attention, right? As I should be. And he says, Dunagan, I want you to audit the auditors that are auditing the PX. What, sir? I want you to audit the auditors. I'm suspicious of how they're doing it. Now, he was a real intelligent man. He looked like a boxer, but he was a real intelligent man, right? I never talked back to him, ever. I came close this time. I said, okay, General, I'll assemble the auditors. These are all civilians from the Department of Defense. I'll assemble the auditors at 4:30, sir, and we'll hold a physical drill on them, and then I'll audit the auditors. 4:30 in the morning, right? He looked at me, Dunagan, don't get smart. I want you to audit the auditors. He reached over on his desk. I had not paid attention to this, and there's a dossier, a large dossier marked top secret. Had my name on it. There's a White House background investigation, because I was in counterintelligence for a long time, all the way back to birth. I mean, had my blood type in there right? You know? He passed this thing. He's a wonderful guy. He's gone now. And he looked at me and said, you will audit the auditors, won't you, Major Bambi? Guess who audited the auditors? X.
And the follow-up to that, after that initial conversation, shall we call it, what was the immediate aftermath? Was it something that he talked about, or was it something that wasn't mentioned again, really?
He always had a lot of additional duties for officers, okay? And that's fine, he's the general, right? But there's 2 or 3 of us, he kept dumping all of them on. I had 2 or 3. When this happened, I'm president of a court martial, I got a battalion, I got all kinds of things going on. I'm in there at 4:30 in the morning, right? A busy day. And he would blackmail me with a big smile for about a month before we both retired. I see him in the hallway, we're both going somewhere, and he'd say, I got something else I want you to do, Major Bambi. Oh my gosh. So finally, in his office, when nobody else was around, real late on one of the afternoons, I said, General, I think you're blackmailing me. He says, yeah, it's a lot of fun. You're a wonderful guy.
Excellent. And then after retirement, you went into private work, as you said, did well. At what point did Bambi sort of re-enter the narrative of your life as far as interviews and attention for it?
Right back here in San Angelo in our first year here, okay, 14 plus years ago. Some people in Disney, very young, of course, they thought I was dead. I had been reported in one newspaper as killed in action, and obviously that was wrong, years and years before. They thought I was dead. About 14 years ago, a couple of folks that knew about Bambi and the other movies, let their word out. I did not know they were doing this. And Disney in Burbank, California, found out I was alive, and they called me on the phone, you know, like, oh my gosh, you're resurrected or something. and wonderful, it was just wonderful. Dan and I were together for a long time before she found out about any of the movies. I just didn't talk about these movies. And I had big boxes of fan mail and all kinds of photographs and stuff. You know, and she stumbled on them, oh my gosh, you know. And since that time, thanks to Walt Disney's company and some other wonderful people, ABC News, some real fine people in that business, since that time, we have been able to do some good because of Bambi and the old movies, and even Frankenstein. I play Frankenstein on the stage and raise money for things, you know. Been able to do more good with those old films. Now that's been discovered, and I don't mind now talking about it, and I'm an old beat-up guy. I can get away with those things now, right? It makes me wonder sometimes, maybe I should have let it out earlier. I could have done more good. Or the fact that I did not talk about it, it came out from other folks, made it better. I think maybe that's so. But I really think that I could have some real great notoriety, have done something magic like a new science for cancer or something, have great notoriety and get in front of an audience that's trying to raise money for something, some good purpose, and do okay. And then somebody in the audience saying, by the way, he was Bambi. And then you know what happens? I can get away with murder. I can get your checkbooks out. We need some help. Bambi's magic. It's just magic.
That's wonderful.
My parents were refugees from the south of Ireland. The Brits had control of Ireland in a very harsh way. And my father was a worker and a horse trainer, young, very athletic. But he was a natural leader, and they're trying to get the Brits out of Donnie Dunagan and some other areas in the south of Ireland, and no weapons, but he was a good leader, and they wanted him a little. So my mom and dad escaped. My mom was carrying me on a trans steamer out of Ireland, and to Galveston Bay here. No papers. We weren't like we are today. Okay, and the wonderful ship's captain named Roan, that Roan Mountain in Tennessee is named after now, became famous during World War II. Famous man, a great hero, merchant marine hero, captain. He delivered me 6 miles offshore, Galveston Bay. Okay? He gave me a birth certificate inside of the 3-mile limit. So it's a twisted birth certificate. Right? But I'm an incubator baby. I was born early. Okay? There's no incubator in Galveston. They're brand new. Those are brand new devices. They had one in San Antonio. The story that we recovered from all kinds of good hearsay was the mom and dad who didn't drive got in a pickup truck with some very conscientious, wonderful person I'd love to meet someday, even post-meet. Got in a pickup truck, and I'm an incubator baby without an incubator. They worried about my dying, got me to San Antonio with an incubator. Okay? Put me in the incubator. I obviously made it. Pretty good. And I got another birth certificate. 2 of them. There's a couple of days apart on these deals. So when I got processed I was loaned out to the Army Counterintelligence from the Marine Corps for a couple of years for all these top secret ultra clearances, and then for the White House clearance, the FBI, I love them, they had a great time with this. And I remember the meeting with one of the senior FBI's when my White House clearance was approved. We have 2 birth certificate evidences on you. Which one should we use? And I said, well, use the most recent one to save me a couple of days of my birthday. Because they knew that from checking the ship's log or something, that the one inside the 3-mile limit was a nice gift from Captain Roan. That's my middle name, by the way, Roan. And so I am a modified, blessed by top secret clearances, immigrant. Major of Marines, retired. Never got any royalties. I was a contract actor, as most were in those days. Good question, sir. I was a contract actor. Did 7 movies in 21 months, one after the other. It actually stole my childhood. I wasn't sensitive to that at the time, but I was later. Okay, work. Okay, and that's where they did the contract performers, right? Children or adults. Disney has been very gracious to me with other things since the discovery that I was still here. Okay, and I love him to death. Okay? And I remember Walt Disney. If I was an artist, I could draw him. He was a wonderful man. So no royalties. Here's an interesting thing. A judge, a senior state California judge, Superior Court something, in 1940 February, and I already made 4 or 5 films, made a court decision that 1/2 of all my earnings should go into a Intervivals trust for me until age 18. Okay, and I don't know what motivated that, but I know my mother was very strong in support of it, and it was a lot of money. And remember, the Depression's still on, and a lot of money. And we discovered that newspaper article years ago, and we had a law firm and some investigators look at that, and that money had been wasn't put in trust with the American Bank. That's the forerunner of Bank of America. And over the years, the state of California, looking at old accounts, the real old accounts, would just take it out. That's what happened to that. I never saw a dime. I would get an occasional ice cream at age 4 or 5 and 6. I always had to bum money, and my parents were wonderful to me, but they were kind of overextended with all this wonderful surprise. I'll share a real funny extra little thing with you if you like. I never had any money. When I was making Son of Frankenstein, my second film, right? I'm barely 5 years old, and Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone, wonderful British cultured actor, kind of adopted me and my mother. I'm having a great time, and a lot of time in between scenes because all the scenes were heavy wood, okay? And it took fullbacks to move that stuff around, not like today. So a lot of time between scenes. And we'd sit there in these little canvas chairs with our names on it, mostly board. And Boris Karloff taught me how to play checkers. And he wanted to teach me how to play chess. He wasn't a polished, educated man, but he was a very intelligent man, and he knew how to do those things. So he borrowed a chessboard from somebody, a little folding chessboard, taught me checkers, how to play checkers. I'd heard the heavy, hard-working guys moving all sets around bet, Depression era, I'll bet you 2 bets on this, I'll bet you 6 bets on that. I had to find out what that was. 2 bets, 6 bets, a quarter, $50, right? So on we're sitting there waiting for the next camera work, and I'm sitting with Boris Karloff and a script girl and some other people there, bored to death, and we're playing checkers, and he's being distracted a lot because he's very popular, you know. And I remember saying, I bet you 2 bets. I just found out what that was, 2 bets. He says, all right, 2 bets. He's distracted. He had taught me well. I beat him. Yeah, beat him. I got 2 bits coming. He's in costume, and I won my money, you know. And he went back into a roll. I got no money, you know. Like, see me later, you know. I want that quarter. So later that day, when we're almost done with all the shooting, I still want my quarter, and I'm bugging him about it, right? And all the other people in the set have heard about this now, and they're really getting on him. And he's a wonderful guy, you know. Pay the kid, right? You know, I wish we had a picture of this. I could pay this mortgage off. He took me by the hand, took me to his dressing room, it was right there on the sound stage, and all these people are following, okay? And Basil Rathbone is really teasing him. Well, Basil Rathbone is the fellow that played the Sherlock Holmes, right? And he goes into his dressing room, comes out with a big silver dollar. Oh, and we had a lot of those around those days. I'd never seen one. And he said, here, Donnie. Now he's speaking not Frankenstein, but broken English, right? Here, Donnie, here, I'm paying you off. I wouldn't take it. I thought it was funny money. I wouldn't take it. All these people are laughing. They're standing around, beating him up. And then he went down on one knee. He's in full costume. He went down on one knee and said, Donnie, please take this. Please take this. Get off my back, or something like that. See? To see Boris Karloff as Frankenstein on one knee, pleading with his little runt kid me to take this $50. It's a precious scene. I'll give anything to have a photograph of it. I took the money. Let me share something with you briefly about the volunteers.
Yes,
Yeah, I'll touch it. You have a question about the volunteer spirit. Yeah? A few years ago, I was on the board of the Salvation Army. Okay? Here. We needed a playground for the children in that area. There was no playground of any kind. Okay, we got a vendor in the country with some honorable leverage to cough up almost at zero cost wonderful playground material that you can see by the Salvation Army headquarters to this day. Okay? And it took some engineering to put it together, and we needed to get it together quickly. Okay, for all kinds of reasons, and. The commander of Salvation Army here at the time, nice man, and I called Goodfellow Air Force Base. Okay? I remember this call well. I'm talking to a lieutenant colonel at the Air Force Base. If we could just get 5 or 6, maybe 10 of your young airmen and air ladies, okay, with tools and know how to use basic tools to help us with this, it would really help. Okay? I was worried about 10. Huh? That Saturday morning, a bus and a half showed up. We had 58 volunteers from Goodfellow, including some young officers who really knew what to do. There were some tools involved in this thing. I didn't know what to call them, okay? They knew. We had that whole thing you can see by the Salvation Army up in 4 hours. The manufacturer said if you're lucky with competent people, 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days. We had it up in hours. The volunteers, and then we thanked them all 1,000 times. Went back, and then one of the commanders, a good fellow, called a week later. Do you need any more help? I thought maybe we could build a bridge or something. No. Wonderful volunteer spirit here, and it radiates everywhere.
Tell me a little bit about the Lions Club. I'm not familiar enough with the organization.
Lions Club has a single focus. logo saying, "We serve." They really do, in every possible way. The most non-selfish, remember that word selfish, line it out in the dictionary? The most non-selfish, most community participatory, okay, organization, and I've seen a lot of them, I've been in several, okay, in my long life. The Lions Club is an absolute example of community gathering, basic people participating in everything you can imagine. From children's summer parks to eyeglasses, famous for eyeglasses, salvaging contributed eyeglasses that people don't need anymore, or that's not my prescription anymore, by the thousands in every state a year, having them cleaned up and measured and given to people who need eyeglasses. Marvelous organization. What I like about it the most is not self-centered. There's a lot of organizations, and I won't mainly be bad taste, that have egos about the size of this house, okay? It has no ego. If it makes a mistake, it says, "Hey, let's fix it. We made a mistake." Wonderful organization of great people. I was at the luncheon yesterday with the Lions here, and at least 1/3 of the Lions, we call them, at this big luncheon, regular luncheon, were ladies, young and old, okay? Not that common in a lot of club organizations today. I'm very proud to be in the Lions.